Hello and welcome to another episode of Mole Digs Deeper. My name is Mole, and today we are talking about, Riot Games and how they finally put the games back into their company name. If you have missed it, a few days ago, Riot Games had a little bit of a live stream. Well, it was not really a live stream, it was a live stream with a video they played where they celebrated the 10 years anniversary of League of Legends. Now I know what you're saying. League of Legends, yeah, nice, but I'm not really so much interested into League of Legends. That is completely fine because Riot Games has just a massive amount of new games they can finally show off to the masses, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So let's talk about the first announcements first, the easy ones, the ones which will be available very quickly, and then we are slowly walking ourselves through the whole process of all the other announcements and teasers they gave to us. So, first things first, TFT is coming to mobile. That's nice. Maybe I would check it out. But the problem is with TFT or Teamfight Tactics, if you have never heard of it, even if they're bringing it to mobile, a game can last for quite some time. And I hope they're giving me some other options because I definitely do not have the time to watch my smartphone for 30 or 45 minutes to play a whole round, and I have no way to pause it because I'm playing against human enemies. So they have to do a little bit more than just bringing it to the mobile version, I believe. There's one info, not too big by any means, and I think we can move on right directly to the bigger League of Legends news, because League of Legends is coming to mobile and is also coming to good old consoles. Now, the mobile version is not too unpredicted, but the console version is definitely surprising me. So, let's talk about League of Legends Wild Rift. As you already can see, it has a different name than normal League of Legends. This has to do with both League of Legends will be different to a certain degree. Like, you cannot play League of Legends with people who are playing Wild Rift. They are two separate games. That also means you will not have your progress you were doing on Wild Rift on League of Legends because they're using another monetization system, they're using completely different gameplay, and they also already said that, at the beginning at least, not every champion will be available. So we have to wait a little bit to see how many champions they're actually giving to us and how the balance will be. Balance, one of the biggest points here, is definitely when it comes down to the timing of how long a match actually takes, because you are on a mobile device, or, well, weirdly enough, they also said on your console, you don't really necessarily have all the time of the world, and so a match will take around 15 to 20 minutes, which makes sense. I said it before with Teamfight Tactics, I do not necessarily have that much time when I'm on my phone, so 15 to 20 minutes is doable, will be close, but again, definitely more doable than 40 to 45 minutes, right? This has been rumored for quite some time and makes absolutely sense because if you still remember, a few years ago, the owner of Riot Games, Tencent, actually wanted to bring League of Legends to mobile. Um, Riot Games didn't want that. They just said like, no, sorry, we are not interested in bringing this game to mobile versions, and we want to focus on the PC version only. And then Tencent was like, yeah, okay, well, we are getting that. Just give us the license, and we are doing that for you. I mean, we are owning you to 100%, so let's just do that. We are basically one company. And interestingly enough, Riot Games was like, I don't think so. Nope, you are getting nothing from us. And that's rumor here at this point, is that Tencent was really unhappy about this, and they created their own knockoff version of League of Legends on the mobile phone. I think it was called, was it Arena of Valor? I always mix it up with another name, but I think it was Arena of Valor. And that thing became a massive hit in China. It was a complete knockoff of League of Legends, and the only thing they did is they changed a little bit how the champions looked like, but it was clearly League of Legends, and apparently Riot Games was really pissed about that, which I can understand, but then they couldn't really do anything about it because, well, Tencent is owning them to 100%. And so nothing really happened then for a few years, and then Tencent thought to bring the game over here to the West, and they did so a few months ago. But the game died very quickly. A lot of people didn't play the game and moved on to the next game immediately. And yeah, that game didn't survive long. I think it did survive for like 3 or 4 months, and then Tencent announced that they're axing the game completely, which makes also sense because now League of Legends is coming to mobile. I'm a little bit more surprised about the consoles though, because the consoles, that is not something I would have expected. Keep in mind that consoles in China do not really matter because consoles have been banned in China for decades. They lifted the ban 1 or 2 years ago, but the console numbers in China are not significant. They do not matter. So this was definitely not driven by the Chinese market. Perhaps this is an idea how Tencent can actually bring more consoles into the Chinese homes, because they can now say, hey, you want to play your most beloved game, which is League of Legends, you might want to get a console. Perhaps that is an idea of Tencent. But I'm not sure about that. It's just me guessing at this point. Because, again, I'm surprised that Riot is going for the console route. And I'm happy about that. I know enough people who own a console, but they do not own a PC, and they would love to play League of Legends. So bringing that to consoles is definitely a smart move, and we're hopefully bringing a lot of new players to the League of Legends universe. How it will play, how it will feel, how much balance it is, we have to see. Especially the time frame is something which makes me a little bit skeptical, because I have played Heroes of the Storm from Blizzard Entertainment, right? And they have done something similar. They have artificially speeded up the game so that the round would take around 10, 15, 20 minutes at maximum. And by doing so, they made a lot of compromises. And there were a lot of like issues behind that game because of that change. So I'm very interested to see how League of Legends is doing here. Alright, next game. And this one is, well, it's not out. Definitely not out. But you can already test it. They're doing a playtest for like 5 days. And then they will have one by the end of the year. And then they will go into beta with Legends of Runeterra. What is Legends of Runeterra? Well, Legends of Runeterra is a card game. It is very much in the vein of Magic the Gathering. And yes, I specifically say Magic the Gathering and not Hearthstone. Because what I have seen so far from Legends of Runeterra, it definitely tries to be a little bit closer to Magic the Gathering and not necessarily what Hearthstone does. And I know that some people now might say, wait, a card game? Really? That doesn't make no sense at all. Why would they do a card game? We have Hearthstone already. We have other card games who also failed. And, like, why would they do this? Well, first of all, a few years ago, we knew that Riot was working on a card game, and that one was canned. How do we know about this? Well, the Twitter account of the CEO of Riot was hacked, and for whatever reason, he had some prototype screenshots of the card game on his account. And when he got his account back, he was like, yeah, we worked on this, but we have canned this. And what we have seen in comparison to the screenshots a few years ago and to this game we are now having in front of us, that is not the same game. It looks very, very different. So, what is it now? Well, as I said, it is a little bit closer to how Magic works in gameplay elements, like much, much closer, but it's definitely easier to get into. And it could be interesting. Like, you have to play these type of games and you really have to take a deep dive to know if these games work out or not. But so far, it looks also much more animated than Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering looks like. And I know that some people might say, but Mo, that doesn't change the fact that this is completely useless because Hearthstone is still there. Hearthstone is the number one. Well, no. Hearthstone had a lot of issues. And I'm not just speaking about the newest Hong Kong Blizzard fiasco thing. I'm talking about gameplay issues and the company not really knowing where they want to take this game for over a year now. Like Hearthstone has a lot of issues. And by the way, interesting fact, Legends of Runeterra is one of the most watched games on Twitch right now and has left Hearthstone far behind. So, of course, we will see how this works on the long run. But right now, I think right now is the best time to put out a card game because Blizzard is not in the position right now to really contest that. So, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense for Riot Games, and this is a good time to push this. Which brings us to the next game, which we have seen a little bit more about. This is called Project A. I think it's Project A. They don't really have a name for this yet, to make that very clear. And this is Riot Games, its shooter. So Riot Games is now working on a shooter. And yeah, it's Project A, by the way. It's Project A. And the shooter looks really interesting. They look a little bit like Overwatch, but so far what I have seen, whenever they showed something from the game, yes, abilities are a thing, but they're trying to be much closer when it comes to Counter-Strike, when it comes to a competitive mood they have. Like when you look at Overwatch, the first thing you think about Overwatch, and especially how the weapon handling is, yeah, this is a shooter, alright, but it's not something where they put like the most time and most effort into the weapon handling. Where in Project A, it seems like that they really want to make sure that the weapons feel good and that it comes down to aiming and not just who can combine the abilities in the best way possible, like it sometimes is in Overwatch, right? Like an ability in Overwatch can be more important than hitting a hit with the weapon. So we will see how this goes. I have to see more of it. Interestingly enough, they talked a little bit about the netcode and how they can battle the ping issues and hacker issues, which definitely are an issue of our time. So it's good that they're focusing on it, but I have to see more of it. I really just have to see more of it. I'm intrigued though. I'm intrigued, but I have to see more of it. So now we are entering an area which, well, is even less known about than we know about the projects we have already talked about. And the next game is a fighting game. Yes, Riot Games is working on a fighting game in the League of Legends universe, like Street Fighter, Tekken, Killer Instinct, and so on and so forth. And it looks interesting, at least like the first 5 seconds we have seen of the game, but I am also not a person who is into fighting games, so my level of expertise is non-existent. I have nothing to say about this because I'm not into fighting games. I think it's smart, but the fighting games can be, what I've seen as an outsider, can be high risk, high reward. Like if you are creating a good fighting game, you can create a huge community around that, because the fighting community loves to flock around like really good fighting games which have certain aspects to it, and they don't really care about the graphics or anything. Like for them, the fighting is the important part. And we will clearly see how that goes. But we have to see more of the game. The next Project F, yeah, Project F seems to be a Diablo-esque game, even though there have been now voices who said that this is not a Diablo game, this is an MMO. And I know what you were saying. You will say, nah, look more. You have seen the trailer, right? They have showed like the top-down view, and it looked a lot like Diablo or Path of Exile, right? Or Grim Dawn. Like, this is not how an MMO looks. Here's the thing. Interestingly enough, in the past 5 years, a lot of MMO creators, especially in the East and around South Korea, started to change their graphics. They moved away from 3D MMOs and they switched to the top-down view like in Diablo. Why would they do that? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Mass. The amount of enemies and the amount of PvP you can do with this graphical construct. Because the problem with 3D games and how pretty 3D games became over the years is this is all nice and fine as long as you don't have hundreds or thousands of people fighting on your screen. And they are all using abilities, they are all doing something. That is the moment where even the top PCs just say, I'm out, I'm gone, bye. And to tackle that issue, they just realized they can do these top-down worlds, which are going a little bit closer to 2.5D, and that costs much, much, much less power of your hardware, and they can just throw hundreds, if not thousands, of enemies at you at the same moment, and you will not really feel the impact. And the games still look very pretty. If you want to have some examples, look at Lost Ark or Lineage Eternal. Like they're perfect examples of this. So this might be indeed an MMO we are looking at, but with the top-down view. Of course, again, we have to see more of this game. What we have seen so far is not too much to go by. Like, we saw some abilities here. We saw like quick fighting, which make it clear that this is like a top-down RPG. But that's all we know. We don't know if it is an MMO. We don't know if it's more like a game in the vein of Path of Exile or Diablo or Grim Dawn or whatever. We have to wait for more information, which goes with the rest of all the games Riot Games has basically put up there. Then the last thing they showed has nothing to do with games, but is an animated series for, well, for online view, like something you would watch on Netflix or on Amazon Video, right? And they already announced that they want to go more into the direction of, hey, we want to do more with music videos. We want to do more with animated TV shows. We want to go more into the movie direction. So what Riot Games really tries to do is they try to go more into the direction of, well, of a multi-game company like Blizzard have been in the past. And I think right now, this is a great time to do it. I think this is a great time right now to do it, because we don't have a lot of other companies who are trying to do the same thing, and the companies who have multiple IPs have been not doing so great in the last few years. Sure, there are some exceptions of that example, but most of the time, companies with multiple IPs have been kinda lackluster. Yeah, Let's call it that. Kinda lackluster. So I think this is the best time to really start this. Like to really show we are Riot Games and we can do multiple games. And of course, this has a serious background in the end. Riot Games probably tried for years to develop one or two games and then release them one by one by one by one. And not what they're doing right now, having multiple games in development. But it seems like they had a problem. Because they first announced that they are working on multiple games was like 7 years ago. So a long, long time ago. But the problem is just they never really finished anything. They had so many setbacks, and they were always so afraid that this one game they're working on right now and they're focusing on is not getting enough people in it. Like, when you have a mega successful game like League of Legends, and you move on to the next project, and you will release that project, a lot of people will look at it like they would look at League of Legends. Oh yeah, have you seen the new game from the League of Legends creators? No, what is it? It's a shooter. Have you played it? Yeah, how is it? It's alright. It's not as good as League of Legends, but it's alright. Okay. Do I really have to check it out then? Like that unfortunately exists. That your previous game has been so successful that the game afterwards cannot really compete with that, and you can actually tackle that when you have multiple games, right? Like diverting the interest of the people who are normally playing your games. Like having a fighting game for the one person, having an MMO for the other one, and having a shooter for the people who are loving to play that game, and hopefully also having another super successful game in it. So for Riot, this whole approach is basically just a win-win situation because there's no other company who's contesting this and doing this right now. They have a higher chance that people will forgive them more when one of these games is not the mega hit. And also, third, for Riot, this is another higher chance to find the next League of Legends in their portfolio. So, yeah, makes absolutely sense. And I'm looking forward to the games. And hopefully, we are talking about these games in particular in the future. That was it for me. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. And I hope I see you next time.